You've got a fantastic story to tell, some fantastic moments in your career. Have you enjoyed putting it into words?
Yeah, because I think that when you first retire, everyone wants you to do a book, and you do a book, and it's sort of matter of fact, and we got off the plane here, and we went there, and we did this and did that. George Best wrote a terrific book sadly before he died, and I remember reading that, and I don't read a lot of autobiographies, but I read that, and I thought, he's got it right, George, because he's told it as if he's walking you through his life. Okay, yeah, it's not all a bed of roses, and it's not all a bed of thorns, but there's been a lot of fun along the way, and I thought, right, you've got that right, and that was where I got the inspiration, or the idea to do it in that form, and I found a writer, and a guy called Neil Hansen, who's a serious writer. He gave me a couple of his books to read that he'd written, and I got to about page 3 on one and about page 4 on the other, and then I was lost. But I really got on well with him, and he's done the job that I wanted. And when I read it, the thing is, at the end of the day, when you've third or fourth edit, I think it was actually the fourth, I read it, and it's as if I'm telling the story and walking you through it, warts and all.
You've had the chance to be more reflective as well, as you've touched upon there. How important has that been?
Well, I think it's very important. I think sometimes it takes a little while for things to sink in, and for you to realise, yeah, okay, a bit of an idiot there, or that was good fun, or that was magnificent, or bloody hell, I don't want to think about that again. So you get across, you look at things, and you forget a hell of a lot. That's the other thing that's quite amazing. I stuff, and I had to go back into it. I thought, oh, crikey, I'd forgotten all about that. And so, yeah, it's been a great time. And the other thing, of course, I never look back. I always look forward. Yeah. So even if it goes totally pear-shaped, I still walk on as if nothing's happened. That's the only way, I think, particularly as a sportsman, that's the way you've got to go. You don't take baggage with you, and you move on. And that also made it even more interesting to look back, and things I perhaps hadn't even considered. Or why did I do that? Well, it didn't matter at the time, I just carried on. And you reflect now. So it was good fun, actually. It was I was a little surprised how honest I was at the end of it. And it's the way, you don't intend it to come out, but when I read it at the end, I thought, okay, well, you have told it all.
Because when you do things like this, and big projects like this, it can be difficult jogging the memory, I would imagine, sometimes.
Well, you can be, yeah, but I only think because of the mental attitude that you have as a player. If you're a guy who's a worrier and sits there chewing his fingers and waiting to see what happens, then you'll probably remember all that, because that's probably what's preying on your mind. If you just walk forward, and I think the best players do, I think people like Viv Richards didn't worry about what happened last week. He worries about what's happening today and next week. And that, I think, is the best sportsman in all walks of life. You can't remember all the bad time. Learn a little bit on the way, but then just discard it and move on.
You reflect upon your cricketing career. Is there anything that particularly stands out as a memory?
I think you have milestones all the way through your career. When you first played for Somerset Schoolboys, the first 100 for the school, then Somerset Schoolboys, and then you go on to the Somerset team, and then you get into the England team. Very, very difficult. I've been very fortunate to have played with a lot of great players, played against a lot of great players, played against, I think, arguably the best side that's ever played Test cricket, the West Indies side of the late 70s to the mid-80s, led by Clive Lloyd, ex-Lancashire man. Well, still a Lancashire man, I think he'd tell you. And Clive, come up against Clive as captain. A lot of milestones, but I suppose as an English player, the biggest moment has got to be playing Australia, and the biggest moment is beating Australia. And it's great to do it here in this country, but when you go over there and beat them and wrap up a Test series in the Boxing Day Test match in Melbourne, 120,000 screaming convicts, and you stuff them and you take the Ashes home, that takes a bit of beating.
Back here at Old Trafford you are today as well. Some happy memories of this place?
Great memories, yeah, absolutely. Some terrific moments on this ground. One of the best cricket wickets in the country, always has been. Always had a little bit. It got a little bit uneven at one stage, but you have to go back to the probably mid-70s for that. But since you've had Pete Marin here and this ground here, and amazingly no Test match here against the Australians. This is one ground the Australians don't particularly like. Anyway, that's another story.
Baffling decision to you though, that is it?
Oh, of course, yeah, very much so, and I think to all players. You play, it's got to be about what's best for the team, and I think England on this surface, and also we've had some great Test matches here. 10,000 people trying to get in had to be turned away on the last day of a Test match. That hasn't happened for centuries. You have to go back to Don Bradman touring or something and then that was because there was no television. Everyone could watch it on TV, but everybody wanted to be here.
You weren't born a million miles from here either, and I'd imagine if things were maybe different with the family and not having moved around, you could have been in Lancashire's radar even.
Yeah, or Man United.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I think Scunthorpe was probably the pinnacle of my footballing career. Yeah, you never know. I don't know. That's a question we'll never know the answer to, but I had 15 great years at Somerset. And I grew up with one of the best players the world's ever seen, if not arguably the best, and that's Viv Richards. So, can't have it always.
You talk about your football career. How difficult do you think that would be today for a top-class cricketer to combine a football career as well, or impossible would it have been?
Wouldn't happen. Just wouldn't happen. Can't happen. There was an overlap when I was messing around, and I was only messing around. And to try and do anything like that seriously just doesn't happen. The football club wouldn't allow it, the cricket club wouldn't allow it, and nor should they.
What's your assessment of English cricket at the moment?
I think Peter Moores is doing all right. It's going to take him a little while to cut away all the baggage that came with taking over from a coach. He wants to do it his way. I think you've got to give him time, I think at least till the end of the next Ashes series, and let's see what he does. He said that everything starts afresh now. It's a clean sheet and we move on, and I think that's the best way to do it. And I think he corresponds with his players very, very well. I think they are starting to understand his thinking, and also I think the public are getting to know a little bit more. You know, he's very good in front of camera and with the written press, and yeah, I think give the guy a chance.
This is, of course, Andrew Flintoff's home as well. Do you have a little bit of sympathy for the sort of incredible spotlight that's put on him nowadays?
Well, I spoke to Dave Roberts out in Florida 24 hours ago when Fred was having a kip. His training's coming on. I think it's only 4 weeks now since the op, and I think they're very pleased with the way things are going. Of course, I feel sorry for him. He's worked so hard, and being close to him and spending time with him, I know how hard he's trained. And contrary to what you might have been told in recent times, he worked very, very hard. Okay, he's had the odd misdemeanour, but he's an all-rounder. I'm afraid that goes with the territory. You can't be out there battling it, bowling, fielding, and standing at slip, and then get tucked away in your little pink nightie into a cot and suck your thumb all night. It doesn't work. It doesn't happen that way.